Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Here are some tips for writing in Pages. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So when using Pages to write, we often concentrate too much on the final product, how it's going to look when distributed as a PDF or printed out. But before we even get to that point, we've got to write the content of that document. It can be useful to divide things into two parts. The first part being the writing, and then after that formatting things for others to read. So first, you don't want the text to be too small. I think by default the text is too small on the screen. It may be good for reading, but for actually writing and crafting the words and sentences, you may want it to be a little bit bigger. Now you can change the font size, but the easy thing to do is go to Zoom right here and increase the size. And then you could see how much space you've got in the left and right here, and maybe even go more than that. So here I could go to 200% and still easily fit all of the text on the screen. Now the next thing you may want to do is choose a different font. Now this is a very personal preference. Different people like different fonts for writing. But concentrate on your preference when you're writing and worry about how you want the document to look for people to read it later on. So by default here, if I select all the text, I can look on the right side and see the default is Helvetica Neue. Now some people may like that, but there are lots of other choices. For instance, other people swear by Arial as a better font for writing. So others like other fonts. Verdana is one that's often mentioned. Also you may want to go with a serif font, like for instance just using the standard Times or Times New Roman. A lot of people, myself included, like monospaced fonts for writing. Maybe it's because I'm a coder. So using Courier or Courier New like this, or my favorite is the font Menlo. To me I can really clearly see what I'm writing now and craft things a little bit better. But I would never leave it as Menlo when I'm finished with the document. Now while writing, it's important to use styles and not to custom set the fonts everywhere. For instance, say I'm going to put a heading right here. Now I could go and select that, make it bold, and make a larger font size. The problem with that is that if I use that a whole bunch of different times, I have all these different places in the text where it's considered body text, and you can see it right here, it's body, but yet it's actually a heading. So when I'm done my 50-page document, now I have to go and change all those manually. However, if I stick with using the styles and make this say heading like that, and then every time I put a heading I use heading. Every time I'm using body text I use body. I just use all of these. Now it's going to be easy to update things. So for instance, if I have two headings here and I set this to be a heading as well, and let's say I'm finishing up the document and I want to make these something really good here. So I can select it. I can set the font to something else. Let's set it to Times New Roman here. Let's make it a little bit smaller and maybe change the style a little bit. Now I can go over here and hit Update and notice it updated all of the headings, not just that one. So while writing, certainly change things like changing the font here of this body text paragraph to Arial, but update. And then that changes body to be Arial. So now anytime I want to change all the body text, I can go and select just one paragraph of body text, change it to something else, like make it a little bit bigger, update, and you can see body text changes everywhere. So it's important to stick to styles and never individually set any words or paragraphs to special font sizes or other things. And if you like how you set up all your styles here for writing, before you change everything for the finished document to make it good for reading, save a copy. And then in that copy you can select everything, get rid of all the text, but all the styles are still there. And then you can go to File and then Save as Template. And you could save this as a custom writing template in the template chooser. So the next time you start writing a document you can start with one that has body text, headings, and all the other styles set like you want for writing. So another reason it's important to use styles for things like headings is now you can use Table of Contents View. This is different than Table of Contents, which is something you see in your document. This is a special view over here. Let me click this, and instead of Document Only or Page Thumbnails, which is what you might normally use like that, you can go to Table of Contents view. And what Table of Contents view is going to do is show you all of your headings. And you can click one to jump to it. So if I had a heading further down in the text, like let's say here, and I set that to heading style, like that, you can see it appears there. I can click in here to jump to any heading. And I can edit what's included in the table of contents. Here only heading is included. But I can include heading 2, heading 3 if I want subheadings. So your table of contents view here on the left becomes a way for you to quickly jump throughout your document. So if you have a long document, like a long report that has tons of headings, instead of having to scroll through it and find things, you can just click on the table of contents here on the left to jump around to where you want. Now perhaps the only tip out of all of these that I use every single time I'm writing in Pages is to change the line spacing, particularly the paragraph spacing. So with the cursor placed inside some body text here, I'm going to go to Text Style and go to Spacing here. And sure, I can change the line spacing, and you may want to make it something a little bit bigger than just 1 so you have a little more separation and you can more easily see what you're writing. But also change after paragraph to create some spacing after the paragraph. So set it to 8 point or 12 point or something like that. Now body text has been changed, so if I update, it will update all of the rest of body text. So notice here how the paragraphs have this nice spacing between each one. I may not want to keep that when I'm finished with my document, but for writing it's really important to see exactly where you've got your paragraph breaks. Immediately see where you've got maybe a paragraph that's a little too long or a bunch of short paragraphs in a row. Now I want to show you something else with Table of Contents. Let's say you want to every once in a while include a note somewhere in your text. Maybe something you're not sure that you want to have in there. So you include something extra. You set this to a special style. So I'm going to select it here and let's change it. Maybe let's make the color a little bit different. So I'm going to make it kind of an orange color there. And they're going to make it italic like that. Maybe I'm even going to go to layout here and indent it a little bit like that. And maybe this is something I might include or might not include, or it's a note or something like that. But I'm going to set this up as a special style. So I'm going to use the plus button here and call this a note like that. And now that's a special note. And I could add another one somewhere else, like maybe further down here. Maybe I'll change this paragraph here into a note like that. So now I've got these notes that I'm adding in my text. Now I can go to Table of Contents view here, add note as one of the things it looks for. And now notice here I've got heading 1, heading 2, then there's that note, and then here's this other note. So the notes are now included in the Table of Contents view and I can easily jump to them. You could even go in here and under Note I could indent that a little bit. Another way to add notes is to insert either highlights or comments. So you can select a word or a group of words or a whole paragraph, and then you can go to Insert and you can either highlight or comment. So with a highlight, it will highlight the word there and it says there's one highlight. I can actually click here and it gives me this whole other sidebar that shows all of my highlighted things. So I can select something else here and use the keyboard shortcut probably, Shift Command H, to add another note. So now I've got these two notes and I could add comments right here to these highlights. And I can easily jump around to go to different highlights and I could hide this if I want. You could still see the highlights in here. Now the comments are similar, but it immediately prompts you to add a comment and you have to add a comment. If you don't add a comment then it just goes away. So you need to add something and then you can see it appears there just like a highlight. So they're similar in a lot of ways. But comments require a comment, whereas highlights can just be words that are highlighted with no comment added at all. And of course this is meant to be a tool that's collaborative when you're working with other people. But you can use it when you're just working on your own to add notes for yourself. Now another thing I find useful while writing is to go to View and then Show Invisibles. And this will give you a blue dot or there's a space, a paragraph mark every time you've got a return there. So if I put an extra line there you could see this isn't spacing between paragraphs. This is actually an extra return that's in there. You also see things like tabs and other invisible characters. For one thing, it prevents me from adding multiple spaces between words because you can clearly see when you've done that. Often when we're writing we need to have a word count either for all of the words in the document or a selection. You can get a word count by going to View, Show Word Count, and then it appears at the bottom here. you can click on it and actually change it to characters, characters with or without spaces, words, paragraphs, or number of pages. Now if you have nothing selected, just the cursor blinking inside a paragraph, it's going to show you the total number of words. But if you select some text, it will show you the number of words in that selection. So you can use this to see, say, how many words you've written today by selecting the text that you've written today. And finally, I think it's important to have a really clean writing environment. So you may want to get rid of a lot of the extra stuff around here when you're actually writing. You can hide the format bar, for instance. You can, of course, hide the sidebar here. Go with Document Only. You can go to View and then hide the toolbar like that. You can click the green button here to go full screen and get rid of the menu bar, except it's still there when you go to the top. This gives me even more room here to actually zoom in even further, make the words even larger. If you want to go even more extreme, you can change the font color to white and the background color for the Pages document to black to be writing white text on black. Oh, and one last thing I'm going to show you here. Notice how, because I have spell check on under Edit, Spelling and Grammar, and then Check Spelling While Typing, things like names are underlined in red because Pages doesn't know the spelling of those names. If you want to get rid of those, it's pretty easy. Just Control click, right click, or two-finger click on a trackpad and either choose Ignore Spelling to ignore the spelling for that, or Learn Spelling so it adds that to the dictionary. Let's do it for here. Learn Spelling, and now that name will no longer be underlined in red throughout my entire document. So I hope you found these tips useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.